Hello?
Hey, Adam?
Yeah,
Hey, it's Tyler. How are you?
Tyler.
With DOSED.
Tyler Chandler,
Yes, that is me.
the director of DOSED.
That is me, yeah. How are you?
Okay, how are you doing?
Doing good. Just got off another call here. They set us up with a bunch of interviews today, so
Good,
here we are.
good.
Yeah.
Good. That's
hope,
good.
Hope you're keeping well considering everything.
Where are you right now? Montreal, or are you in?
We're in Vancouver. Yeah.
I was wondering because started thinking what time zones were. I wasn't sure. So it's just noon there then, I guess.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. We're on lockdown here too. Restaurants are closed and, obviously like theaters are closed and sporting events are canceled and, have to ride the elevator to get in and out and not really going anywhere. It's like a totally bizarre situation. So hopefully it passes soon and everybody can return to normal, right?
Yeah, well, that's the idea. But on a bizarre level, this is unifying the world. I mean, it's as strange as it is to say that. It's almost unnecessary for you to tell me that they're closing theaters. I mean, we're all experiencing the exact same thing.
Yeah. I know.
Although,
it's like it seems like everybody's almost on the same page now, as some countries are ahead of others and whatnot. But yeah, it's very interesting to see it unfold and quickly.
Welcome then, Tyler Chandler, who's the director of DOSED. We have Nicholas Meyers, who is co-producer and co-editor on the film, and happy to also include the main subject of the film, which is person-wise anyway, is Adrianne. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I hope everybody is okay and healthy and their families are okay.
Yeah, so far so good, and we're hoping everybody's staying safe, doing what they can do to, contain and hopefully eradicate the coronavirus, flatten the curve, all those things. Isolation, unfortunately, it's very boring.
Yeah, this is just not the time to be outside or in groups, and so, our whole theatrical tour of DOSED is just been totally postponed here because of this coronavirus. And so, this is the time to be inside watching movies on Netflix and dosedmovie.com.
Can I just ask them real quick, and maybe you were about to bring it up, and once in a while to identify yourself too, so because I might not even know if it's Tyler or Nicholas, but just to get a little bit of house cleaning out of the way then. So it's going on Vimeo. Can I assume that means Vimeo on demand?
Yeah, it'll be available tomorrow. It's in pre-purchase or pre-order right now through dosedmovie.com, and then that's through Vimeo on demand. What we're also doing is we're donating a percentage of every purchase towards the Corona Disaster Relief Fund through CDC, WHO, and UNF. And then that'll be matched by Facebook dollar for dollar. So, it's our way to support this current crisis that we're in, and hopefully that will be behind us soon. And then, we're going to look at doing similar things to help support the other health crisis that we've been all dealing with for a long time, whether it's anxiety, depression, or addiction, through psychedelic research companies.
Good segue into the film. I've been a big supporter or believer in psychedelics myself as a potential cure for addiction. And I've seen, cases where this has helped so many people. And before even DOSED, back in 2009, my friend Michelle Negroponte made a film called I'm Dangerous with Love, which dealt with iboga and weight, so it's great that your film is bringing the subject into the forefront of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we hoped that this would do along the way. We didn't know what was going to happen in the beginning, and and here we are with a documentary now that is inspiring a lot of people and giving them hope for their own situation or loved ones, family members, friends, that type of thing.
Since we are also coming from different countries, even though we're obviously neighbors, the United States is ass backwards about all of this stuff. We give people lifetime prison sentences for carrying marijuana in this country. Things are slowly changing, true, but Canada seems to be Well, let me just ask you, what is the culture like in Canada regarding psychedelics, regarding drugs in general? And you tell people, so because the film does explore that as well as Adrianne's story.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, obviously, we have federally legalized marijuana, so we're a step ahead there. However, some cities in the United States have already moved to decriminalize psychedelics in the U.S., which is a step forward. In my view, both countries were still stuck on the war on drugs, which is very damaging. And not at all helpful. And I think it's going to take some time for us to shift away from that. But I think people are starting to realize, harm reduction. We do have safe injection sites here in Canada, which have been proven to decrease death and harm to people. So there are many people working for harm reduction. But there's still a lot of stigma and suspicion associated with psychedelics. We are trying in Vancouver and Canada, there's a number of groups trying to decriminalize or move forward to legalizing psychedelics. And also there's MAPS Canada and MAPS USA, which is working towards clinical trials to legalize and make available psychedelics, which I believe MDMA is going to be the first among those that will be available for therapeutic use.
I mean, what is the experience for you being both the subject of the film Dosed, this documentary, as well as a spokesperson for the subject matter? I mean, this film is very, very raw. It's as they say, warts and all, depiction of what you've gone through, and you're dealing with your addiction through almost the entire film. Yeah.
Firstly, it's very difficult for me to watch the film. I've seen it 3 times now. It's very difficult. It's very emotional. It's and knowing that people being in a theater with other people watching this very personal experience is challenging. But the response that I've gotten from people is that it's very inspiring. And, I want to destigmatize addiction and not make it something that people should be ashamed about or hide. I think this is something that we need to talk about, and people, from what I've heard, it's inspiring for people to see me share my story and allows them to talk about their experience. But also, highlighting, the problem that we have. There is an opioid crisis in Canada and the United States. People are dying. I think at one point in British Columbia alone, 4 people would die a day from overdose. That's horrific. And I think it's time I think the time is right. There is a shift, and there is growing interest within psychedelics, more and more clinical trials. So, I'm happy to be a spokesperson and help to shed some light on this, and hope that we can start moving in a different direction to stop the suffering that is going on.
You still identify as an addict? How do you identify?
I've definitely struggled with that. That's evolved over time. I would probably at one point have said that, once an addict, always an addict. I'm not sure that I feel that way now. I do believe that my recovery is something that I will always have to work on, spiritual, emotional healing. But I think everybody has that challenge. Everybody's always working to better themselves and to heal. So that's always evolving with me. I'm 2 years sober, so that's relatively new in sobriety. So I think I'm still on my journey. But yeah,
you were a great choice to be the subject of the film, because you don't fit the typical concept of what an addict is supposed to look like or live like or dress like. I mean, you're very charismatic. You're young, you are a dynamic person, highly intelligent. I mean, it's in a way you are the best subject for a film like this.
Yeah, I think it's important to show that, I had a job, I had a family, I am just a regular person in many respects. Probably most of my coworkers and even some acquaintances probably would have been shocked to know that I was struggling with, a heroin addiction. There's a stereotype about what that looks like, and it's actually not true. addiction does not discriminate. It affects, across socioeconomic lines, gender, all sorts of things. So it's important that people see that this is something that is affecting all walks of life. It's not just that stereotype. I think it's easy for people to sort of dehumanize addicts like they're a certain type, and that's very damaging. I think it's important to know that all of us are affected. Everybody is probably affected in some way, shape, or form. Someone in their life that is struggling with an addiction.
First of all, I guess, guys, fill us in a little bit about how you met Adrianne, and did you meet her and then decide to make this film, or did you already want to make a film on the subject of psychedelics versus drug addiction? What came first here, the chicken or the egg in that way? And then how did you meet Adrianne? How did you guys meet up? And we'll start with that.
Yeah, this is Tyler. So I had known Adrianne for many years, and throughout that time she'd struggled with sobriety, and it had sort of reached a critical point in her life where she was feeling quite low and depressed. And it was just kind of coincidental, because in one regard, this is, kind of like, this documentary never really should have happened, but a few little things came together. So like, firstly, Nick and I were talking about doing a documentary together. We didn't really know what topic, so it wasn't like psychedelics was something that we really wanted to pursue. But then I had my own experience with magic mushrooms, and that was the first experience of my life, and it was quite profoundly wonderful, despite the stigma around, like having a bad trip and stuff like that. And that's what kept me away from psychedelics my whole life, is I didn't really feel like experiencing whatever that was, this unknown. And you hear about it every once in a while from a friend, or even going back to high school. And so after my first experience, I realized like I didn't feel hungover the next day. Like after drinking alcohol, I felt quite good, very, very, energetic and feeling very positive. And then just a couple days later, I saw a headline article that caught my attention about how psilocybin, magic mushrooms, can be helpful for people and how they feel. And so specifically with depression. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because it made me feel, pretty good after. Not that I'm depressed, but it just made me feel quite good. And then a few days after that, Adrianne was texting me from her low point, and that's when I asked her if she'd ever tried psychedelics. And that got me and Nick and Adrianne talking about, if we should, like, if she should try that, how that would work, should we film it, and then here we are.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. It's Nick here. It's something that we hadn't planned, and I think that comes across in the film. Just sort of uncertain, sort of naive beginnings, and then going on this just incredible journey, like into the illegal underground of psychedelic therapy, and emerging on the other side through all of these sort of really traumatic and scary things that you see in the film, to a position where we almost feel like accidental activists, almost, or at least I'll speak for myself, I do. This was not something I even knew about as a topic a few years ago, and here we are getting emailed by people every day saying that watching the film helped save their life, or like gave them hope. And really what we've seen is that these drugs are so effective for treating mental illness and addiction issues that it's really the only thing that's been propelling us forward, trying to get this film released and get people to be aware of it. Yeah. It's just this burning passion to make people aware of these issues that are really life or death issues affecting all of us.
And maybe it's easier to get people to see the film in this way, even though, you're deprived of your theatrical, but this is the opportunity for the film to get to more people sooner in a way.
Yeah, we're so excited about that. It's such an exciting thing that, we're kind of making a good situation out of a bad situation. Obviously, when you have many, many, many dozens of theaters about to play your movie all across North America and the world, it's a bad time for a pandemic shutting down movie theaters, right? But there's way more than our own personal struggles going on right here. Everybody's struggling with this virus, and what better way to help people get through this than to make this available online for them to see and maybe give them sort of some contextualization around their issues and what might be done, what you might be able to do to work through your issues.
And people can find the movie at dosedmovie.com, right on the homepage of the website, where they view the documentary in its entirety, and I recommend you do. Adrianne, what was your I mean, when you were approached by these guys about trying psychedelics and doing it in a, being filmed for this, I mean, what were your initial thoughts? And I know that you struggled through the making of the film. I'm not going to get specific about it because I think people need to see the film and see what happens with your relationship in the film with the filmmakers. But what about initially? You must have had mixed thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was very serendipitous, like Tyler spoke about. I had also just heard about psychedelics. Even before he mentioned it to me, there was a clinical trial that was supposed to happen in Vancouver. That clinical trial has not yet happened, but I had just emailed the people running the study saying that I would like to be a part of this psilocybin study for substance use disorder. And then, I was telling Tyler how low I was feeling, how depressed I was, losing hope. And he'd asked me about psychedelics. And then, I mean, it all happened pretty quickly. I think he asked me, would you be open to filming your journey, like try using psychedelics and filming it? And I immediately said, yes. Obviously, it was challenging. It's not easy. I didn't really know that we would be where we are today. I thought, oh, how cool would it be if this did work? And we had documented it all. I was never sure. And we all talked about, maybe not continuing filming. We didn't know how this would turn out. So I guess I wasn't really thinking at any point that, we're going to film this and then one day it's going to be screened in countries all around the world. I just thought, cool, let's document this and see what happens. And at that point, I was quite desperate and willing to try anything. All other conventional routes had failed me. So I was willing to try psychedelics based on what I'd heard.
Can you also just talk a little bit about your support system that you have, your family, your friends? It is a challenge to support an addict. I mean, the film also really depicts very, very, very honestly and clearly just how trying it can be, trying to support somebody and to keep supporting them. It's right. There's not a lot of gratification usually in this process, right? Or happy endings.
Yeah, I mean, this was, not the beginning of my journey when we started filming. I had been struggling with addiction for the better part of 10 years, and that was definitely difficult on my friends, on my family. Addiction is a family disease. It's a community disease, if you want to call it a disease. It's very hard, and but the thing is like you do need a support system. You do need that community around you. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to try and get sober on your own, just on your own willpower alone. It is a very challenging and complex issue, but and I was very lucky. Psychedelics aside, the psychedelics really helped me. That was an amazing tool to help me to get sober. But it was also important was the support that I had around me, like Tyler and Nick and I got very close very quickly. They were very strong supports. They were advocating for me the whole way through. I learned about this underground psychedelic community. They quickly became a very strong support for me. I'm very lucky that I had very supportive friends and family that stuck by me despite all the craziness over the years and how difficult that must have been for them. I realize not everybody has that, and I was very lucky to have that, and that's a huge contributing factor to me being sober here today, 2 years later.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On that. You're welcome. And how do you deal with the tough days? Because it's not like they end, right? How do you cope on your most challenging days?
I mean, there's lots of, I have to work on my sobriety every day. I think the psychedelics, one of the things about addiction is I was very uncomfortable feeling my feelings, positive or negative. I just never learned for whatever reason, healthy ways to cope with particularly negative emotions, and through psychedelics, but not only psychedelics. I've had other therapies, simple things like eating, exercise, just learning to take care of myself. But it definitely wasn't an overnight process. Like, this is ongoing. And I think if you talk to anybody in recovery, it's an ongoing process, probably throughout your life. But, psychedelics definitely helped me have a different perspective. First of all, it gave me a lot more self-compassion and self-love. I learned to be a little bit more gentle with myself. It's a process. It's not something that just, you do psychedelics and you walk away, that's all behind me. I have to work all the time up better, healthier behaviors to help me succeed.
And I know you guys were, I don't want to make too much of it. You were, let's say, cheated on this theatrical because of what we're going through, but you did have quite a few festival screenings, and so you did get to witness or experience the screenings with audiences in quite a few really good festivals. So what was that like? And Adrianne, I assume you were at most of these or some of them at these screenings?
I've been to 3 of the screenings. I definitely have not been to all of them.
Oh, you did say that. It's very difficult for you to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did your family and friends make of the film?
A lot of my friends have seen it. They kind of lived through the process too, so it was very interesting for them to watch. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. Honestly, my parents have not seen it. I don't know that they want to. It's something that they've already lived through, and it's probably very difficult for them. I don't know that they're that interested in watching the film. I think they're just happy to see me where I am today and that it worked. So I think that's good enough for them. I don't know that they necessarily want to relive that experience.
I guess I have to respect that decision. Yeah. Guys, what has the response been? I mean, every audience has to have a large number of people struggling with addiction or family members, loved ones that struggle. So I can't imagine those Q&As were anything but very intense.
Yeah, there's been some intense moments for sure. It's overwhelmingly positive. We've done many screenings around the world. We have not been able to travel to a lot, but we've definitely been to a bunch. And it's drawing in big crowds. We're selling out big theaters, and people are very interested in this topic for obvious reasons. They there's a mental health crisis. It's not just addiction as well, right? Like these substances are clinically proven, or at least psilocybin and magic mushrooms. It's clinically proven to help people with depression and then also with anxiety in separate studies. So it's drawing in a lot of people, and it's challenging to see when people are asking, well, how can I access this, right? Because it's illegal here in Canada. It's illegal in the United States. In some cases, it's expensive, so it's out of reach because there's a lot involved, especially with the ibogaine and iboga. You need doctors, nurses, health tests. You sort of need a whole team to facilitate one of those treatments. Mushrooms is a little bit different, but our thoughts on it are, well, if we can at least break down the stigma that people have around mental health and addiction and also psychedelics, and open up a safe place for people to chat about it, even that conversation can help people. Maybe it's a teenager that'll chat with their parent about some feelings that they've been stuffing, and they'll be able to work through that without psychedelics. And hopefully in the end, eventually, everybody that's working towards making these psychedelics safely and legally accessible, hopefully they'll be successful. And in the end, this should be part of the healthcare system where, the government is involved and even paying for it. I know it's different in the States than in Canada, but if it's part of the medical system, the governments will save a lot of money, and a lot of people will get better. And, a lot of people who are addicted, especially to opioids, will stop struggling and suffering and, potentially overdosing and dying.
Yeah, extreme measures I think are are appropriate at this point. We have an extreme problem on our hands here in the United States with opioid addiction and deaths. The death toll, it's tremendous. What's the closest country in Central America where people go for treatment?
Well, I mean, if you go to dosedmovie.com, there are
all the details,
places. Yeah. There's like a resource page, and there are people who are doing this, and some will do it sort of on the underground, and then there's also places through them. Like if somebody wants to do it legally, it's Mexico. There are places in Mexico and Spain for iboga and ibogaine. Costa Rica, of course, South America. Quite often, though, that ends up being ayahuasca, and that was not part of our documentary, but a lot of people will report back that is profoundly life-changing and beneficial for depression and mental health. Yeah, so I mean, people can check that out and obviously, check around. But it's always something to consider. Like, nobody should be going to jail for this stuff. It shouldn't be a police issue. It should be a mental health concern. So there are some countries that have actually legalized all drugs. Because, like, obviously, heroin is also illegal, right? The street opioids that people are overdosing, and fentanyl and all that stuff, it's also illegal. So this is like using one illegal substance to try to get off of another one that will kind of destroy your life, while the psychedelics will help you in many ways, and they're also non-addictive. So after you've done 1 or 2 or 3 sessions, you may never need to use them again. Of course, while always considering that there's no magic bullet.
Right. Well, we need to stop throwing the baby out with the bathwater and just sort of just throwing every drug into the same basket and deciding that and it's not even that the case, because obviously there's lots of drugs available. It just depends,
Well, the most dangerous drug is alcohol, and that is,
there you go.
That is by far and away the most destructive for yourself and others if you look at a chart. And magic mushrooms is the safest, according to the chart. You can do more damage to yourself with aspirin than with magic mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the name of the documentary is Dosed. You can go to dosedmovie.com and view the film right now, so people can listen to this and then go right to the documentary and watch it. It's thoroughly watchable, by the way. I mean, it's very, very hard to stop watching this film. And Adrianne is a very watchable subject and fascinating person. You come across very fascinating and very quickly become very invested in your story and your success. So I'm glad I got the chance to see it, and I'm encouraging others to do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Especially under the conditions, I'm trying to fight for every film that's, dealing with distribution and exhibition of of a film, and it's an important subject. So if you're listening, go check out Dosed today. And we've been talking to the director, Tyler Chandler, and the co-producer and co-editor, Nicholas Meyers, and Adrianne, who is the subject of the film. And I really appreciate your being so forthcoming with your story. Really, it's tremendously brave of all of you to have made this film. So, well done.
Thank
you so much, and thanks for your time.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye.